Hello, I'm Monty Betham. You are watching Once a Warrior. My guest today is one of the highest profile signings in club history. Sammy Tomkins, how are you, lad?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
Mate, I am great, but geez, you're busy. Saw you on the weekend with the Sky coverage of rugby league, then there's a documentary coming out. Mate, you're meant to slow down when you retire. What's happening, mate?
Yeah, my wife's not happy. It seems like I've finished and I'm out working more than I ever have. I'm still with the Catalan Dragons. I'm a club ambassador, so I do a day or two there. Then I fly over to England and do the TV work as well on weekends. So yeah, I've gone from finishing at lunchtime every day to now I'm out of the house all the time. You know, I thoroughly enjoyed my time in New Zealand. It's an amazing place, and you know the opportunity. I'm just a kid from Wigan that you know I had no idea that I'd ever come in my career. So yeah, real fond memories, and yeah, looking back at the highlights, we certainly had some good times. You know, I was 12,000 miles from home. I was, you know, relatively young, 23, 24 years old, and I just felt so welcome from the start. You know, the club were amazing with me from day one. I felt like I was valued straight away. I felt like I was well looked after, and you know, I was thinking back of how I was then. I was a kid. Just such a different culture, different way of living, different environment. You know, I'm from a working class town in the north of England, so you know, there's no Mission Bay around here. So I just got there and I was just blown away. Everyone took me in with open arms. So it's probably the people that I've missed the most.
Well, I guess those people all knew who you were because of the profile I was talking about. With that profile would have come pressure.
Yeah, I think the pressure was very much external. You know, I put pressure on myself to perform and to give 100%. But yeah, I think I'd grown a thick skin in England. You know, I'd become, you know, one of the top players in Super League for a couple of years by that age. So you know, that comes with its own challenges. I felt like, you know, I was certainly thick enough skinned that I could come over and deal with that. And there was, I think, the fact that, you know, the Warriors had to pay a decent transfer for me and things. It added pressure in a sense of people expected more, but you know, I was coming and giving 100% regardless. You know, if I'd come over for $1 or $1 million, it wouldn't have mattered.
Because let's talk about that world record transfer. Huge. Wigan got that.
I think, well, it was £750,000, so yeah, $1.5 million. But the only reason that came about was the year before I'd actually agreed to go to Saracens Rugby Union in London. I'd spoke to the Wigan owner and said that I wanted to go and do something different. I felt like I was ready for a new challenge. And during the negotiation, they said to me, would your brother Joel come? So me and Joel were both in the first team at the time, my older brother Joel. The clubs just had to sort out a fee. And the Wigan owner said, well, I want £1 million. And Saracens said, well, that's a lot. You know, how are you splitting that? And they said, it's $750 for Sam and $250 for Joel. So all of a sudden, Joel looked like a bargain. So they snatched my brother up. He went to Saracens, and they'd sort of put a hold on it for me, and they just said, no, we want you to stay. So they signed me on an upgraded deal for 5 years, and then 12 months into the 5-year deal at Wigan, I still had these same feelings of I wanted a new challenge and wanted to do something else, and he just sort of said, well, I'm sticking to that figure. So that's how the figure came about.
When did you even think it was possible? Who put that thought into your mind? And I want to know the sort of process and the talks. Was it you first, or was it Warrior number 1, Dean Bell, getting in your ear?
Yeah, it was pretty much the Warriors or the Gold Coast in the end. Dean Bell came over with Wayne Scurra at the time. They came and met me in England, and it just seemed a perfect fit. You know, I'd known Dean when I was on the scholarship system and coming up. Dean was the head of youth at Wigan. Ironically, he released me at 16 years old. Said I wasn't going to do it.
Wow.
And then luckily there was somebody else that was back in my corner, because I wasn't the best kid coming through. You know, I certainly tried hard as anybody else, and I was desperate to play. But physically, I was very small at 16. So So when he came over, it just seemed a good fit, and it was clear from day one that the Warriors, wanted me there, and I wanted to be there. I'd seen players that had been in Super League or been in English Rugby League and gone to the Warriors, and everybody that I spoke to had nothing but good things to say. Apart from Aussies, obviously, they were saying come to Australia, but I already had Thomas Luluai at the club, so that was also a big factor. Tommy Luluai is someone that I'd looked up to for a long time at Wigan, and he certainly had a huge impact on the way that I played. Still, I speak to him, every other day now, and I knew he'd been at the club before. He was on his second stint at the Warriors, and he went just 12 months before I had. And when he told me the ins and outs of the club, I was just really excited to be a part of it. So it was quite an easy decision in the end.
Okay, so your first memories of being on the ground down under, new place, same sort of name, the Warriors?
The last game I played before joining the Warriors was a World Cup semi-final at Wembley, where the Kiwis pulled it out of the bag. Last play of the game, Sean Johnson knocked us out of a World Cup on home soil. So I wasn't that excited to meet the boys after that. So I got plenty of stick. Day one in the changing rooms, that got brought up. But it was how it is on the field. It's a battle and your enemies, but very quickly I was in the group and they made me feel really welcome.
Debut game is against Parramatta. What memories do you have of that match, man?
I felt like I was melting for about 80 minutes. I wasn't used to playing under those conditions. It was just so humid. It was horrible, and it was a tough start. We went and got beat there. It was a tough place to go and play, but I just remember finishing the game and thinking, this is what I wanted. I wanted the challenge, and I've certainly got it. I've got it on a plate here, and I've got to give it 100% because it was brutal. And that first game was as tough as it was. It was what I wanted, what I needed, and what I expected.
Was it difficult to, you came to the club, Matty Elliott was the coach, then, 6-7 rounds in, he leaves, you got Andrew McFadden. Did that make it harder for the team? What went on and how did it happen and what was the effect?
I think Cappy's a better coach, so I don't think it was too detrimental to us. It was a strange one. When I came to the Warriors, I'd never spoke to Matty Elliott until I arrived in the country, as the head coach, which I thought was strange. I'd only spoke to the owners, the chief execs, and they just sort of said, "Oh yeah, the coach wants you," but he didn't contact me at all. And when he arrived, he just said, "Oh look, I was happy to bring you in. I didn't want to mind you," he said. "I didn't want to bother you before you came," which was strange. He was pretty laid back about it. But yeah, we had a poor start to the season, and he was gone. So Cappy made a difference straight away. It was clear that he had a different way that he wanted us to be as a group. So quite early on in that season, things changed a lot, but probably for the better. Yeah, I think Cappy's a better coach, and he had a positive effect on us as a group.
The differences from NRL to Super League in your mind?
I think it's the consistency of competition. In Super League, we've always got a few teams that fall away, and you can almost play at a 7, 8 out of 10 if you're one of the top clubs. If you're a Wigan, a St Helens, you can sort of cruise through a couple of games and you can almost rest some people and don't push people. But when I was at the Warriors, every game was a battle, and that was the biggest difference for me. Every week was full on. There was no time to sort of breathe. The season, you're on that treadmill and it doesn't stop from the start of the year to the end. There was no respite, and that's the biggest difference, I believe, between Super League and the NRL. It's just that there isn't a week where you can take your eye off the ball, and if you do, you get beat.
Yeah. For you yourself personally, what took adjusting to?
Probably the style of play. In England, you very much play with the ball a lot. You try and break from your own half, and then going to the NRL, it's much more focused on completion rate, possession rate, the wrestle. It's a lot more controlled, and in England we're very much attack focused. If you see an opportunity in your own 20, you're just like, let's play it. where it's the opposite. You know, in the NRL, unless you've got a dead set chance to break from deep in your own half, the tendency is to go, no, we're just going to complete, we're going to build sets. So that was different for me. You know, I was used to getting my hands on the ball and just sort of risking it a little bit more than what the style suited to in the NRL.
You mentioned NRL teams, they seem to grind it out a lot more. Does that mean that physicality is there a little bit more as well because it's that back and forth grind?
Yeah, there's just more time in contact, so it does feel more physical. You play against some teams in the NRL and you just feel like it's a wrestle-a-thon. You wrestle, complete, kick long, and it's really who can grind it out, who can play that long game and the arm wrestle better. So yeah, it certainly was more physical in that sense, that you were spending more time in contact with people. And
just on that, what was your weight when you were playing too, Sammy?
I was about 81 kilos.
Jeez.
Which was my playing weight right through in my last couple of years at the Dragons, 2022 and 2023, are probably even slightly lighter than that. Yeah, so not one of the biggest.
Yeah, absolutely. When you think about some of the fullbacks back then, Greg Inglis and some of the other guys that would carry the ball back, because there was moments when that I guess they'd try and target you, and being 81 kilos, you can see why.
Yeah, but you know, had I put on 10 kilos, it wouldn't have made me any better at rugby. It's, you know, you've got to play to your strengths. There'd be no point me, you know, going and trying to put another 5 kilos, 10 kilos, and it you know, my game was never about being the strongest player on the field. You know, that wasn't it. It was about being the most elusive I could be. You know, being the smartest I could be, providing for edges as well as I possibly could, and for that I didn't need another 5 kilos of bulk. I think that would just slow me down.
Sammy, something I remember is the way you'd always sweep into the back line and you'd be like an extra ball player and you'd create a lot there. Where did that come from, and how did it become a big part of your game?
I was a 6 when I started playing, you know, through the system at Wigan, then into the first team. You know, after 1 year of Super League, I was playing 6 for England, and I thought that was my position. You know, I was a halfback. But it was when Michael Maguire came to the club in 2010, before we played a game, we're just in pre-season, he said, I think you should be playing fullback. Michael Maguire explained to me and sort of showed me that, you know, you can still have all the attributes of a halfback and play fullback, and that then became my style of play as a third halfback. You know, being able to kick, being able to just go a short side and play, or basically pick where you want to be on the ball, which suited me, and it was the way that I think, you know, had I not been a halfback as a youngster, I'd have just gone into the generic fullback role. But because I had that experience, it meant that I wanted my hands on the ball. I wanted to play, you know, frontline stuff sometimes, sweeping at the back. So it gave me a lot of freedom, that style of play.
You had a great combination with Connie Harrell. You linked up between you scored many tries.
I think we just complemented each other's game. He took a lot of advice on. You know, I could say, look, this is the sort of line I want you to run, and he'd just get it right. You know, if you say, look, I want you to run a hard unders line inside somebody, or, you know, stay with me and we'll get outside your centre, whatever you said, he just did. You know, you didn't need to tell him twice. You didn't need to check during the game. You know, a lot of the time it could just be a flick pass from me. I knew exactly where it'd be. So it made my job a lot easier, because I knew exactly where it'd be every time. And you know, when he's got ball in hand, he's just so powerful. He's like a truck. You know, I love playing alongside him, because you didn't need to create a great deal for him because he was so strong. You know, if you only need to give him put him in a little bit of space, and people couldn't tackle him one-on-one. Tell
me you remember scoring 2 tries, 9 tackle busts against Parramatta Eels.
Yeah, I remember that because I scored from the base of a scrum, which I've never done. We pushed a scrum. Obviously, we had a massive pack and we made a plan. Let's just push them off the ball. And I was at 13 defensively in the scrum. Picked the ball up, managed to get the ball over. So I was like, I never imagined myself scoring from a defensive scrum before. But yeah, that game, it's one of those where everything clicked. I enjoyed. I had my dad over in New Zealand at the time as well,
Nice.
so it was nice to play well with my dad in the crowd.
You know, throughout your career, whether it be here, down under, or even up north, joining Jack, the sign that you did, give us a sign and tell us the meaning behind it, please, Sammy.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's joining Jack, and it's an ex-player from Wigan, Andy Johnson. So he played with, you know, in the Chris Radlinski era, probably 15 years before me. And he had a little boy, Jack, who turned 16 last week actually. And he's got a rare disability. It's called Duchenne muscular dystrophy, and the life expectancy is only in the 20s. And now there's cures that can be found for this, but because it's such a rare disease, the funding's never been behind it. As rugby league communities do, they get behind something. They're making this charity. It's called Joining Jack, and joining the fingers is like two J's joining, and that's where it came from. The charity's boomed. You know, they've made millions and millions of pounds, and which in the long term will help, you know, find a cure for what is a devastating disease for these young boys.
Beautiful, brother. Well done, mate. That's amazing. 2015. Refresh my memory, because I think there's a few injuries for you that year, which never helps. What was the injuries that were plaguing you?
So in March, it was the 21st of March, I snapped the PCL ligament in my knee. And that injury that I did at the Warriors is the one that's just made me retire last season. I snapped it and went and saw some specialists, and it was tough. I'd never been injured before that point. That was my first injury as a rugby player, and it was tough. It was a really low time. You know, certainly being so far from friends and your security blanket of friends and family. You know, I had some good friends there, but you know, not like what I've been living within a mile of my brothers and my parents and friends all my life. So being there that was tough. It was very tough. But what I wanted to do, I wanted to get back on the field as quickly as possible, and certainly came back too soon. That was evident that you know, my knee was really loose. I got advice that I could just rehab the injury, and I was rehabbing it to probably 60-70% before getting back out on the field and sort of trashing it again, really. Which I was young and naive and desperate to play. I was competitive, so you know, I regret the way that I probably handled the injury myself. I don't think you know, the advice was sort of, if it feels good, play, and I'd convinced myself that it felt good enough, which, you know, had I been a little bit older, a little bit mature, a bit more mature, I wouldn't have taken that approach. But you know, I was desperate to just get out there, so I was coming back too early and playing too early, and sometimes playing when, you know, had I been able to look at the bigger picture, I shouldn't have been really. And that season it hindered me massively, which, you know, I felt like I was letting people down. And again, that just put me back in the cycle of, right, well, rather than let people down, get back out there. But injury in rugby league it's always going to happen. You know, nobody goes through a career without getting injured. I probably just didn't handle it the way that I should have done. It was in the time of me being injured that Wigan contacted me about cutting my stay short a year and going back to Wigan, because there was an opportunity with a new marquee rule coming in.
Yeah, that's crazy, right? Still very young in terms of age. You're away from your family and friends, and then also Wigan getting in touch with you, and and you're going through an injury for the first time. Geez, there must have been some head noise, mate, and you a lot to deal with, right?
Well, to make it worse, at the same time, my wife told me she was pregnant with our first child. So I was definitely I was phoning my brothers a lot and saying, my knee's shot. There's a marquee rule coming in England, meaning I can go back on a good contract. Then my wife fell pregnant, and it was a lot of to and fro. And I wish I hadn't made the decision to leave a year early. I think I should have stayed. I should have done another year, because I didn't feel like I showed my best. And you know, being injured in the second year was the reason for that. And I felt like I sort of took an option of, well, if I go back to England, I knew it'd be different, and it was. But yeah, I certainly, you know, I can't say I've got regrets of my career because I've been very lucky with what I've been able to do. But if I could change one thing, yeah, I think I should have stayed. I should have, let my knee heal and got myself ready for the season after. But yeah, it was a well timed call from the chief exec at Wigan. That coinciding with me and my girlfriend at the time, my now wife, expecting our first baby. I felt like I should be around family. So yeah, there was some sleepless nights, Monty, I can promise you that. But yeah, made the decision.
2014, just short of the finals. 2015, great start, but fell away, and maybe that's because you were injured, and I think Shawnee in there as well. But any idea why you fell away in those 2 years?
I don't know the exact reason, and there's smarter coaches than me that were trying to work it out at the time. But I don't know whether we sort of took it for granted that we knew we were a talented team at times, and we were expecting that we'd get results where some teams came and probably chucked more at us than we thought, and we were shell shocked. But getting up for the big games and competing with the top teams wasn't an issue. It was games probably where we thought we should have got a win where we lacked down, which I think comes down to the playing group being prepared mentally. I don't think we were consistent enough.
Sammy, sum up your time in the Warriors jumper for those 2 years, man.
An amazing opportunity, one that I loved, one that I look back on with nothing but fond memories. I'll always be grateful to the club for giving me the opportunity, and going to the Warriors I expected to enjoy it, but I wouldn't think 10 years after signing there I'd still be as desperate as I am to just get back there and be amongst it. I'd love to go back into the club at some point and spend a bit of time there and see some familiar faces. I smile every time I think about New Zealand. It's such a special place. It's magical. And since we left at the end of 2015, me and my wife have said we're going back on holiday this year. We're going to go back. But since then, I've had 4 young children. I've had 4 kids moved to France. I now live in France, so we've just not had the opportunity yet. My youngest boy, Dylan, he's only 2, so we've agreed once he's a little bit bigger and can deal with that flight, we'll be back over. It's a club that once you're in it, you really belong, and I think that's why the Warriors are such a special club. It's like a family.
Sammy, once a Warrior, always a Warrior. You travelled a long way to wear that jumper with pride, brother. Thank you so much for your service.
Thank you, Monty. Appreciate it.
I'm Monty Betham. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next week for another episode of Once a Warrior.